Yes, Mayor. I want to talk about the possibility of looking at the Railroad Street and reducing the speed limit on Railroad. I just want to address really Ward 3. I know our Railroad Street runs through various wards, and we don't have any sidewalks on Railroad Street. We see a lot of bicycle traffic, coming into all the shops there, the Dollar General and so forth, and even seeing people on wheelchairs actually, trying to navigate through the streets there. Now, 40 miles an hour is, kind of give it in perspective, Highway 90 is 45 miles an hour. So we're looking at 5 miles an hour less than Highway 90. 28th Street is 45 miles an hour. So those are two running, east to west, thoroughfares, if you will, and Railroad is right in between at 40. And, I think this is something that we need to take a look at. The paving that we did on Railroad, I think has, given people a reason to even go faster than what they've been going. And rightfully so. You don't have to navigate through all the landmines like we had in there with all the manhole covers before. So I did go out and I spoke to some of the residences that back up to Railroad Street in my ward, and they were all for lowering the speed where they can get out of their homes and the driveways easier. I spoke to some of the businesses there, particularly one of like Trax is right there. That their parking lot pretty much is right almost in the middle of Railroad, and Zach is very much in favor of this and asked if he wanted to come here and speak to that. He's very favorable to that. I just think we have, Blue Links there. We have some 18-wheelers there at Blue Links, and we have a railroad spur that goes right through Railroad Street. And I just think it makes a lot of sense to reduce the speed for safety reasons. And I did reach out to the police chief, and I asked him about this. He didn't have any statistics with him as far as the number of accidents that have occurred. But I think this would be a proactive stance from this board to take and look at things that, let's not wait for a fatality or, God forbid, injuries or happen before we take some action. I think we need to be proactive and really slow the speed down. And there's just a lot of reasons for it. I don't understand why it was raised to 40, and it's been that way for a long time. I understand that. People don't want to go slower. They want to go faster. So, and I think that's what's happening here. And as the last thing I want to mention, there was some interest in some people that had golf carts and so forth that wanted to have access from my ward into downtown. I'm not advocating at this time that we lower the speed limit to 25 to allow that golf cart, but I think that's something that if we do this, we drop it from 40 to 30, that we might have that latitude to be easier in the future if we want to take that next step for the police, for the golf carts. I think it'd be much easier. So I'd like to, I'll put this in the form of a motion for.
Can I ask one clarification? Do you know, since Railroad connects from Long Beach all the way into the other side of Gulfport,
yep, what
is the speed limit on the Gulfport side?
Good question, Mayor. I failed to mention that. Gulfport has a 30 miles an hour speed limit on Railroad Street. So this would be, if we did this, we would be matching what Gulfport is doing. It just makes total sense the more I look at this, and I think it's something that we need to seriously consider, not only for Ward 3, but if the other wards are amenable to it. If we had this continuity going all the way across our city, I think it would be a positive thing for our city.
How far would this go? If it were to go to 30, how far? Where does it start and where does it end? Or are you talking about going all the way from?
I'm talking about my ward, which would be Nicholson Avenue to the Gulfport line, and that's where I'm talking about here.
Almost be stopping the 30 at Cleveland.
Well, I would ask that maybe if you're going to make that motion to put it at 30, we make the entire railroad 30.
I think that makes sense, Mayor, but I didn't want to, impugn on the other wards, but I think that makes total sense, and I'd be agreeable to that.
Okay, so is that a motion?
I put it in the form of
so-
a motion when I get a second to discuss it.
All right, so I don't think there's a motion on the table. If you're making that a motion to make it 30 miles an hour, do I have a second?
Second.
So I got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I want the police department's opinion on this. Personally, I think this is going to snowball into something bigger. What road's next? Beat line? I mean, you have just as many houses on Beat line. Now that, are we going to slow the traffic down all through Long Beach? I feel like it's going to cause gridlock, personally.
And first of all, I think Gulfport is 35.
Is it 35?
I'm almost positive Gulfport's 35. But either way, we have complaints all over the city of speeding. We have very few or no complaints on railroad. Most of them are neighborhoods and school zones and stuff like that. So
I said, my personal
We have
opinion is
Yeah.
this is going to cause a lot of headache trying to travel in and out of Long Beach, because you do railroad, you're going to do Beat line next, then Pineville. Before you know it, I mean.
You know what? That's a good point, Timothy.
Understand the
Yeah.
golf cart section. There's a lot of Ward 4. They have no access to golf carts. I've talked to a number of people saying, look, we can't lower the speed limit on Pineville Road.
Yeah, I did speak to the Alderman at Large in the city of Bay St. Louis, and I spoke with him about what I was considering doing, and he said in Bay St. Louis, all of their streets are 25 or less. Okay? So they didn't have to go through and do what we're trying to do here.
I think Bay St. Louis is completely different.
Well, it is, but we always say that we want to have a city that's a quaint city. We want to do some of the things that Ocean Springs does, and you know what? We pick and choose some of these things. We don't have to become these other cities, but we can take some of the things that have been successful and have worked in some of these cities, and we can incorporate that and embrace it. So I really don't subscribe to the philosophy that this is going to open Pandora's box and it's going to be, a big problem and so forth. I think we do this in a controlled fashion. We're not talking about doing this all through Pineville Road and Beatline Road. We're talking about an east-west corridor. And that's why I wanted to pare it down to Ward 3. If we only do Ward 3, that's fine with me. But if we wanted to extend it, like the mayor said, I think that's something to consider, whether the pleasure of the board is with that regard.
Well, so we have a motion. This is a 30 miles an hour. Unless you want to change your motion, it's 30 miles an hour. And understand that this is not to aid the golf carts, because the golf carts have to be 25 or under. So this is strictly, if I'm hearing you right, for a safety reason to reduce the speed limit to 30 due to the increased traffic across town on railroad.
Absolutely. And if we get we get the monies to put in sidewalks and so forth for railroad, I think that we can, we might want to increase that or go back to 40 or whatever. But this is strictly a safety issue. And I thought about doing it all at once and doing it instead of than going back and revisit it. But I don't think this is the time to do the golf cart, approach. Going from 40 to 25 is pretty significant. I went 45 and I drove on Railroad Street and I went to 30. And to be honest with you, it was a pleasant drive at 30. It wasn't like I was standing still and people were going to be passing me up. I think it's going to be a positive thing for the city. If I didn't believe it, I wouldn't be here talking about it. But if you want to do it, I think it'd be great. But if you don't want to do it, I don't want to not do it because it's going to be, open Pandora's box and it's going to be chaos for the city. I think it'd be a good thing for us.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table, and clarify the motion. Is it the entire railroad or just your part?
I'm just going to say for Ward 3 from Nicholson to the Gulfport line that we have that reduced from 40 to 30 miles an hour. And if there's anyone who wants to do an alternate proposal or a motion in here to include their wards, so be it. But if not, this will be.
I would say that if we're doing this because of a safety issue, safety issues aren't just by wards. It's either a safety issue all across railroad, because it's all the same from one end to the other. It's not a ward thing, it's a safety thing on railroad. And So if in fact it is a safety issue that goes from one side of our city line to the other, and it needs to be reduced to a certain amount, then we would hopefully do it all.
Well, I mean,
Well, there's
If
something,
it's however the
I mean,
board
can we
wants to
get
do
some
it or not do
information?
it.
Can we get some?
there's something that just,
Is it a safety issue on railroad?
And if that's why we're doing it, then
If that's why we're doing it.
that needs to be.
well, when you say that, because in this discussion, something that just kind of jetted out at me is we're not doing it for golf carts, because that's 25. But it almost, to me, sounded like that's what we're leaving the door open for.
I agree.
And for some reason, maybe I'm just hearing it wrong, and I'm not accusing or saying anything, but if we're doing that, that's the part that catches me as wrong.
Yeah, and it's not for the golf carts, and I did that specifically. You know, if I were going to do it for the golf carts, I'd be doing it one time, and I'd be looking at going from 40 to 25.
Fair enough.
And to taking care of that. So I purposely excluded the golf cart issue. So, and I did mention the golf carts because that might be or might not be something that we want to do in the future, but this is not hinging, you know, it's not contingent on us doing it at this
So
time.
here's the motion. We're going to go for your ward over on that end to reduce it to 30. I'm going to also ask that you have the chief pull information.
And just for clarification, Gulfport is 30.
Gulfport is 30.
You were able.
I thought it was 30. I was right.
Yeah,
Okay, I was right once today, or,
it is 30.
okay, it's 30.
You know, all right, so we're going to vote on this, and it's going to be your section. Now, I don't have a vote, but I wouldn't be in favor of just doing sections. However, that is the vote, that is the motion on the table. And while we're in discussion, I do want the chief to pull the information on railroad, because let's face it, it is a dangerous road. You see a lot of people riding bicycles. You see people walking. There is no sidewalks in a lot of areas. So there is a concern for safety, but I want to see the data that backs it up. But I want to be proactive as well. If we're seeing an increase on railroad while your officers are out, that there's a dangers for people, pedestrians walking, and just more activity than we've had in the past, because we are growing, then we need to look at that. So the motion on the table stands that Joey wants it in that particular ward. All right,
One more discussion. I will say, I'll be up front. The entirety of railroad, I'm 100% against. I'm not going to argue.
But that's not what we're voting on here.
I'm saying that's your ward. I'm not going to try to rule on what you do in your ward. So I'm good with whatever you want in your ward, but I am not for the entire.
And that's exactly why I didn't try to do it the whole ward to begin with.
so your motion is 30.
Yeah,
I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
aye.
Nay.
What?
3.
Well, it's 2-2 now.
No.
Wait a minute.
No, you got 5. You can't have that.
No, what'd you say?
I said nay.
All right, it failed.
Wait,
Wait a minute. Roll call.
It passed.
it passed.
Aye.
Nay.
Nay.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. So it goes to 30 miles an hour.
From Nicholson Avenue to the Gulfport line.
And I would stress that, you know, when we make, it's passed and it's going to become, but I would stress that we don't do sectional roads. That road is a continuous road from one end of our town to the other. And when you put sectionals areas going slower than others, you're creating a mess. So this one's passed, but we got to look at the rest of the railroad. 'Cause I'm not in favor of doing just a portion of railroad.
When you say sectionals, would that be like integrated at like a stop sign or something like that?
Yeah, not just a ward. I don't want to say, oh, this ward.
I got it. I understand.
Yeah, we got to think it's much larger.
You got to understand, my ward touches Gulfport. Okay, I mean, my ward's a little bit different. It's east, very far east. You know, my ward touches Gulfport. So we're continuing the speed limit from the Gulfport side through the ward, through my ward. So we're not changing up anything. We're not, you know, from that perspective, we're keeping it consistent on railroad.
Right. Motion carried.
So once we have the signs, I'll make a Facebook post because it won't be 30 until we have
And
signs.
it's going to be hard to enforce it because who knows when they leave one ward to another, they're still on railroad. So it's going to be not easy to enforce, but
We'll write them.
it is what it is. All right, next.
And I live in that ward too, so I'm gonna get hammered.
Be
Slow down.
careful where you're driving.
Stop Donald first.